Hi everybody, Mary here. We're ready for our next stretch class. So go ahead and get your mat out, get your trigger ball, get a strap or a towel, and if you have a foam roller, oops, you should have one of those, grab that. And then definitely you need to have a blanket or a pillow. We're going to use this to lay on our side on top of that blanket or pillow. So it doesn't have to be very thick, but something that can support you so that you can create some kind of a side bend with that. All right, so again, we're going to start those 10 minutes and work through wherever you need to get that little release in through the muscles. So again, you can work through the foot. I always start with my right foot. I should start with my left because that feels pretty good. Again, your toes are very valuable to you. So if you don't mind touching your toes, bend those toes back one at a time. Put your finger between each toe so you can stretch the toes side to side. That's really good for your foot. It stretches all those muscles. So you've not heard me say that yet. I'm going to remind you. You can always use your fingers to massage through the top of the feet if they feel kind of tender and sore, especially up to the front of the ankles there. And you can always use the thumbs on the bottom of your foot, work from the heel all the way out to the foot, the toes. That usually feels pretty good there too. And again, the ball, rub it around side to side or forward and back. That works real too. You can press on the heel. You can press on the back side of that heel, but not on your Achilles. Don't press on the Achilles. We don't want to damage that. And when you're ready, you can start working up through the calf. Now, if you're already working on another part of the body that you really need to have some foam rolling done, go ahead. Just continue with that. I'm just going to use this kind of as your reference, how you can work through the foam roller and the tennis ball with this. So working through, try to find those spots that you can just say, oh, that's really sore. And just relax your leg down, let your muscle melt over the ball. If it's too much pressure, relieve it a little bit. Take an inhale, exhale, press down a little bit. If you're okay with that, keep the leg there, breathe in, exhale, release a little bit more. Now, some people really love to have the pressure on the calf muscle, so they'll cross the ankles and get a little more pressure there. You can certainly do that if that feels okay. If not, use your foam roller. You can do one leg at a time. You can do both at the same time. You can even cross the ankle over. So there you go. There's your options for your ankles. Your calves, using those ankles. And again, check in behind the knee. So if you can press your thumb into the top of that calf muscle right at the bend of the knee, pressing forward, you should feel if there's any soreness in there. And if there is, just keep working it out. Press your thumb in there to release that, because that's probably part of the reason why your calf is tight, if that's the case for you. Then we'll work into the hamstring. So a tennis ball usually isn't enough to get in there, so you'll have to get onto your hands and roll forward and back. You can get onto one side there and just roll forward and back a little bit. You can roll out from the hip, turn your leg out. You can turn your leg more in, a little bit more on the inner thigh, just working through the muscle in there as well. And then you can continue working into that inner thigh if you just adjust yourself a little bit more. Probably an easier way is to lay on your stomach. Take the leg over that foam roller and then roll out and in. And again, if you find that sore spot, just kind of pause there and just relax into it as best you can. About 3 or 4 deep breaths. If you can't feel any sore spot, then just keep rolling a little bit out, a little bit in, going along the direction of the muscle fiber, which is from the foot up towards the top of the head. That's the direction. And then if you go sideways across it, so for instance right here, I'd be going this direction, that sometimes in that sore spot will help work it out a little bit quicker than if you just go the direction of the fibers of the muscle. And of course we're talking fascia, that covering over the muscle that we're trying to get into. So it's all right there, it's all together, it's all combining to create that nice little soreness you feel that we're trying to work out. All right, so on the side, the IT band, 2 parts. You got your TFL, tensor fascia latae muscle up here. It's where that 5th pocket on your jeans is located. So right at the front of the hip bone, You might be able to find it with that tennis ball seated, but you can come onto the floor. And I'm actually going to find it on this side. So we don't want to start on top of it. You want to kind of feel where it might be, and then kind of roll onto it a little bit off, and just move around a little bit. And you'll feel where there's some tight spots that you can kind of press down into and just say, oh, that feels good. That's where you want to be. And then since we're over on this side, before you get into that IT band, you can use that tennis ball, work it down the thigh a little bit there as well. And when you get down to the top of the knee and you say, okay, I found all my sore spots, they're all kind of worked out there. I'm going to linger there a moment. It feels really good. Once you get it all worked out, then we can switch. We're going to come back onto that IT band using the foam roller, or if that's too intense, you can use your hand, and I'll show you in a moment. So the foam roller, make sure you have one leg supporting your body. The leg you're rolling is going to be straight. You just roll from off of the hip joint, because we don't get on the joints or the bones, stay on the tissue. But the IT band is very sensitive, so we don't want to press too hard into it. So that's why we have our foot down here. And I'm just moving this because I don't want to get rolling out of the picture frame here. But then work it down the leg. So ideally, take a minute rolling one way, 1 minute rolling the other way when you have time for that. And that'll help that all get worked out a little bit. And then you can come over onto your knees so that you can come onto your thighs, onto that foam roller, and work through your quadriceps. And then you just work a little bit forward and back too. And when you find that sore spot again, you can kind of rock side to side. And if you want to do one leg on top at a time, you can. Might feel a little bit awkward, but foam rolling is not the most gracious, I guess, format that we use to take care of our bodies, but it's so needed. So working through that as well. So working through the low back, we want to stay off the actual low back area. Probably where you need to roll a little bit more is where the bone, the hip bone is down here. So that's going to be really low. So it's only about that much space down here that you're working. Again, you're not on, if you can find your hip point here, it is not going to be higher than that. It's going to be lower where you start. So find that point, come around to the back, come down a little bit so that you do not feel your vertebrae back there. You want to be below that vertebrae. And then you can come back a little bit onto that. Maybe that works. Oops, here I went out of screen. So maybe that works, going that direction. It's kind of tough to get into, but once you find it, it feels pretty good. You might even start seated on top, lean back a little bit, and kind of roll down and back up. So you're going to feel where the tailbone is. Don't get on the tailbone. You want to stay above the tailbone and below the side hip point. And then we'll come off carefully, and we'll continue working that up. So between the shoulder blade and the shoulder area, you can roll through that area there too. You can round your spine up. Hands can be here to support your head. You can go a little bit side to side. That's another good place to roll into. And on the side, lay on the side again. Roll from that arm, underarm area to mid-rib area, not too low because we've got the low rib, the floating rib. We don't want to press into that. That's why we're going to use that blanket or the pillow if you have one in just a moment. Again, that can roll out a little bit more. Kind of get the back of the arm if you roll back. Maybe a little bit more into the triceps if you roll forward a little bit. And if you use the ball, you can get into the front of the shoulder, middle shoulder, back of the shoulder, down the arm on the outside, down to where the biceps are, down into the forearm area. You can get all that too pretty well with the ball. The chest you can get into the chest area with that ball as well. And then if you want to work into the buttocks, because I really did skip over it on purpose, I figured you want to stay there the longest. You can use the ball underneath the hip. You can prop yourself up, and again, there's going to be a hip joint that you're going to feel. You're going to feel bones in there. Stay off of those. Get on the fleshy part. Work around. You can lay down and work on and off that ball if that works well for you that way too. So there's your options for that. We're going to spend another 2 minutes. kind of work through everything on either side. Maybe you're just hanging out on one side because, that's your trouble spot today, and that's fine. This is not designed to get the whole body foam rolled out in one session. I'm just showing you all the different options that you can move into so you can help your body feel better as you need to, because every day it's a little different. Some days it's going to be quite similar to the day before. That's okay. Just recognize it for what it is. And then we'll keep working through. Help everything relax and open up. Try to get that fascia to smooth out so we can stretch the muscle underneath, because the fascia is what's holding that muscle and not allowing it to stretch. So we'll take about 3 more deep breaths, working through everything here, building up a lot of tension in the body. So if you need to exhale through your mouth at any time when you stretch or foam roller, then do it. Your body's going to tell you what it needs to do. It's like, it's just like after you finish an exercise, you go, for a lot of reasons. But one of them is because you built tension up inside the body and your body needs to let it go. All right, so let's come off of whatever device you are on. Take a moment. Let's come into our breath. So just relax. That's a cleansing breath. Let's do that together. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through open mouth like a sigh. Relax down the shoulders. Slow down the inhale. If you need to do an exhale through the mouth again, feel free. Otherwise, try to breathe in and out through your nose. That brings your body into a level of peacefulness. It signals your body that there's nothing threatening around you, takes you out of the state of stress, out of the state of anxiety, brings you back into what we should call, and well, it is called our natural state. That is where we're supposed to be most of the time. With that breath down to the belly, slow in, pause at the top of the inhale, slow breath out. And slowly open eyes if they're closed. And just move it a little bit. So if you find during the day you're breathing only into your chest, take a moment, take 3 deep breaths. Inhale through the nose, let it come down to your belly, expand out to your ribs, exhale through your nose. 3 times. It will help reset your body to a more peaceful state. You may not feel totally relaxed and less anxious, but we're trying to reduce those feelings so the body can be in its natural state instead of its heightened state of alert. That's bad for the body. That's stress, that's high blood pressure, that's all those things we are trying to avoid for the body. You can take care of most of that with the deeper breath. All right, so we are going into, first of all, into a hip flexor stretch. So grab your pillow or your blanket. We're going to lay on the back, and we're going to have the hip elevated, one hip elevated on that blanket. So you'll have to play around with it if you've not done this before. Kind of play with it a little bit. So you've got, the leg can be straight or bent when you start. You're going to lay all the way down. Again, make sure you've got your sit bone on top of that blanket elevated. And so the hip is going to be higher than the other. That's definitely what you want to have, that feeling there. And then if you feel any pinching into the back, just bend your knee until everything starts to relax, and then you can straighten that leg back out. Arms can be out to the sides. You can have them out to a T. You can bend the elbows and see if you can get your back of your hands to the floor. Maybe you bring your arms in closer to feel a better stretch, or further away, or maybe arms straight overhead. So you just find what works well for the opening of the shoulders, the chest. It doesn't have to be only that hip that's feeling that stretch, the front of the hip. Try to feel that whole muscle in the buttocks relaxing. Release the gripping that you might feel there. And then continue feeling the release through the thigh and the hamstring and down through the leg. Relax the ankle. Relax your foot and each of your toes. Deep breath in. Slow exhale. Relax your shoulders. Relax your neck, your throat. Soften your face. Just let everything go. Take one more deep breath. Exhale, let go. Let's bring the hands back in if they're out to the sides. Let's bend this knee a little bit, enough that we can push the foot to the floor to lift up the hip and let that blanket move out of the way. And then bring your hip back down to the floor and just see how you feel. For a lot of people, it feels really heavy. It feels lower than the other side. So what we've done is we've reset the hips for this one side. Stay here for another moment. We're going to take the other knee and bend it for a figure 4 stretch. So the hip you were just stretching, we're going to bend that knee, cross that ankle over the other thigh, keeping the foot flexed, press your knee away, and just see how it feels. If that feels great, stay there. If you need a little more, maybe take your foot across, see how that stretch feels. Keep that knee pressing away. Or you can bring the knee towards the floor and see how that direction feels. Adjust your other foot here where it feels like it's going to stay there and feel like a good position for your stretch. You can also reach through and bring that leg in. Keep pressing this knee away. So as that knee presses away, you still feel a stretch into this hip somewhere. And again, you can take your hips to one direction, foot towards the floor. You can hold it where it feels good. Maybe that knee needs to come in a little bit more. Maybe that helps with the stretch. Maybe it needs to press away, but keep the foot flexed for that crossed leg. You're going to take one more breath. Exhale it out and relax. Bring it back to center. Now let's hug that knee in and relax it down to the floor. And we're going to switch to the other side. So move your blanket or your pillow to the other side. So now we can lift the other hip. So again, however you want to get into this, that blanket's going to be situated underneath the sit bones. Your tailbone's going to be off to the side of the pillow. Start with your knee bent, and then you can straighten out that leg. When it feels good, take it totally straight. And if the legs never go straight, that's okay. We just want to make sure this hip is higher than this side. And let's see if we can feel everything relax through the top side here. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Keep the face relaxed. Find the stretch for the arms, maybe out to the sides. Maybe bend your elbows. And we didn't try this on the other side, but maybe take your fingers up to the sky. Maybe take one arm towards the floor, maybe the other side. See how that rotation is in your shoulders. If it doesn't work, that's okay. But maybe you've got something that you can place underneath, and so you can rest your hand in this elevated position here. If I have my foam roller where I can reach it, I can show you. It'd be underneath here resting. So again, relax the gripping in the hips. Relax through the thighs, down through the legs, your feet and your toes. Relax the chest, the shoulders. See if you can release just a little bit more. And take one more breath. Exhale, let it go. And let's slowly come out of this. So gently move your arms to where they come into a more natural position. Soften that knee for the leg that's being stretched. Press up and over so you can remove that pillow or blanket out from underneath you. Come back onto the hip and straighten out that leg. And let's see how this side feels. It may not feel as big of a difference compared to the other side because the other side was already released. But now we've got both of our hips released here. Take another deep breath. Exhale, let it go. All right, so figure 4 stretch. We're going to take the leg that was not stretching and bend it. The leg that was stretching, we're going to take that leg up, flex that foot, cross it over the thigh, press your knee away, and let's see how the hips feel here. And if you want to rotate the foot over towards the floor, you can. If you want to take the knee and rotate it over towards the floor, you can do that too. You can slowly move from one side to the other and just see how it feels. See if one way feels a little bit better than the other. And sometimes if I'm going with my foot to the floor, I'll have to move my bottom foot over just so I feel a little bit more secure base for that twist over. And if you're not feeling much of anything, go ahead and bring your hands behind that thigh to bring that leg in. A little stretch this way. And again, you can rotate your foot towards the floor or the knee, going the other direction towards the floor. And just see which way feels better. Hold that stretch. Take some deep breaths. Let's take one more deep breath. Exhale, letting go. Bring everything back to center. Feet to the floor and cross your legs. Let's take our feet wide. Alternate one knee to the center, then the other. See how that's working there for you. And then pick one side to start with. You're going to push your foot into the floor. Maybe lift that hip up. This other knee goes where it's okay and comfortable. See how that stretch feels going down through the side here. Maybe through the top of the hip area into your quadricep. Keep lengthening the hip away. And take some deep breaths. And then release back in. And just bring the knees back to center. A little wiggle through the hip side to side. Kind of let everything rock back into place. And then we'll take the other knee to the inside. Once you get there, push into the foot, lift your hip if that feels good. Press your hip down away if that feels good, so you can feel the front side stretch. Again, deepening your breath, which helps relax your muscles. Breathing deep breaths just 3 times relaxes you. Just imagine a whole hour of this. That's why you feel so relaxed after class, because you spent so much time breathing deep. Maybe not the entire time, but for the majority of it, you're helping your body relax. All right, let's bring everything back to center. A little wiggle side to side with the hips. And roll to your side onto your belly. I'm going to readjust here a little bit. So into a cobra stretch. For the front side of the body, since we're still there, we're going to stretch the front side a little more. So top of the feet on the floor, forearms on the floor. So take your tailbone, tuck it under, and just kind of lift the chest up a little bit. If you want more stretch, take your hands out to the sides, take them away a little bit, and then straighten out your arms. Again, tailbone's tucked under. So this is kind of a working stretch. Working to keep that tailbone down, squeezing through your buttocks, probably through your hamstrings. You feel them tightening up. Feel the front of the body open and then release down. We're going to do one more. I want you to bring your head all the way down, stack your hands, rest your head down. We're going to go into either that same stretch if you want to do that, or into the up dog position for yoga, which means we're going to have the arms straight. So to do that, hands are going to start underneath your shoulders. If you already know you're not doing that, just come back to your forearms, hands out wide, lift up if that's where you want to go. All right, so hands underneath your shoulders. Everyone's tailbone's going to tuck underneath them again. So you get that sway. Try to take out as much sway of the low back as you can. There will be some, though. Press yourself up. So when you get here, notice if you're sunk down, I need you to press your shoulders down from the ears, really lengthen through the back of the neck. Try to keep your wrists underneath your shoulders here. And then you can tuck under, or I should say, take the top of the feet flat and then press into them to lift your knees away from the floor. And that's a good stretch. All the way through the front of the body into those hip flexors that we were just working on. Take another breath. You're still doing that if your forearms are on the floor in the cobra. You're still stretching your hip flexors. And let's relax the knees down if that's where they are. Everybody, we're going to bring our hips up into that little cat posture. So hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Tuck under your tailbone. Lift your spine up. Press your shoulders away from the floor and then slowly release your spine back to neutral. If you want to sag your spine down, that's cow. You can do that. So everyone take a breath in. Exhale, arch your spine up to the sky. Press your shoulders away from the wrist. Get a nice extra stretch between the shoulder blades. Inhale the spine back to neutral or release it all the way to the floor. One more time. Exhaling into cat. Tuck under that tailbone. Press your shoulders away. Now try to press your hands away from your knees. Feel a little more stretch with that. Then release your spine back to neutral. Stay here or release your spine to the floor. Everybody bring your hands. Try to press them into the knees. Open your collarbones. Take a breath. And release spine to neutral if it's not. All right, little tail wag side to side. Kind of relax that low back a little bit. All right, we're going into side stretch. So if you know of anybody who has a sway back and they say, oh, my hip flexors are tight, what we've just done is going to help release them, but this is going to help also. This is going to be a deep lying muscle inside the body, and you'll have to play with how much arch you want in your side. So this muscle actually attaches to the space right below the rib cage, attaches at your spine, and it comes down into the pelvic bowl. And along with a whole lot of other muscles, it's attaching to other bones there that connect to the function of the front of the hip. So when it's tight, it's going to pull the top of the hip forward, and that creates that sway back. It creates that anterior tilt of the pelvis, and it throws off everything in the body. It also compresses the low back. So the low back vertebrae right here, they get compressed down because you've got the muscle here that's pulling down into the hip, which is actually kind of a diagonal, kind of from the spine out to the outer hip area. So you've got this compression, you've got this tilting of the pelvic bowl, your hips, causes problems. So stretching, that's why it's so important. All right, so you're going to pick one side to start on. We're going to lean over whatever object you have. It shouldn't be more than about 3 or 4 inches. You might be able to go a little bit higher depending on your body's flexibility going to the side. You can bend your arm to rest your head on. Get to a point where you start feeling some kind of a side bend and just see how the body feels. When you feel pretty good, check to see that your shoulders are one on top of the other and your hips are one on top of the other as well. So you might need to roll back a little bit or roll forward a little bit. You might need to peek up there and see what's going on. Start with your knees bent. See how that feels first, because we can increase this stretch different ways. One way is to create more of a mound here for the body to come over. So if you're feeling a tremendous amount of stretch here, come up off of what you're on and release out whatever that height is a little bit more, so it's not so intense. And then get situated again, shoulders stacked, hips stacked. Then when you feel pretty good, you can take this arm up and reach it past your head, see if that helps increase your stretch. You could instead take your arm up and reach it back a little bit. Just be careful you're not rolling the chest backwards, just the arm is stretched back. Then you can take your top leg and straighten it out. And I know you can't see my leg there, but take your leg straight and see how that works. So again, we're stretching from this side, the top side of our spine. That's where the attachment of the psoas muscle is, goes down into the front side of the hip, and we're trying to stretch that out. So we're creating this curve so that instead of it being pulled in and pulling our low back down, we're lifting our low back up because we've got this curve here. I hope that makes sense. That's not too much information. Again, if you feel this kind of pulling, stretching in the low back, you're doing it right. Yes. Just don't pull it so much to where it's really going to cause strain. It can do that very easily. So you just want a little bit of a stretch until you know how your body's going to react. And you want to hold this for probably 2, maybe 3 minutes, which I think we're about there now. So you just want to feel that nice, easy hip going away because it's off of your pillow, let's say, or your blanket. Your ribs are resting on the blanket, and the blanket is pushing your ribs up to create that arch. Your shoulders are resting down a little bit, so the top side of the spine is more to the floor, so that's creating our arch. Get that stretch here. Side stretching is underrated. There's so much involved with it. But a lot of times all we do is stretch from like our mid-rib area up and stretch over. We don't incorporate a low back stretch like this. So it's a great way to get that side muscle to relax, which is not really the side. It's really internal, right through here. And it does play into all the other hip flexor muscles that work to bring that thigh up in front. Get this stretched out, everything else try to stretch out as well. So let's take another deep breath. Exhale, let go. All right, now we're going to take that bottom leg and we're going to bend it up. Take your time with this. You might need to rock a little bit forward or back. Take your top arm, help protect yourself before you press yourself up. Use both hands to come up. So if you've not ever done that before, your body's probably saying, oh, what was that all about? So take your time as you get adjusted from laying down to seated. Maybe take a little bit of motion into that low back, a little forward and back, a little bit side to side, see how things are working. And then we're going to switch and go to the other side. So because we had such a tremendous stretch for most of us one way, now we're going to ask it to go the other way. Make sure you take your time getting situated. So start with the lower setting of whatever you have here. And once you get situated, you might want to increase it, or you could even decrease it if you thought you needed to. And a lot of times, once you get into this other side, you're going to tell which side is really the tight side for your body, because a lot of us have a naturally tight side. So once you get situated, again, your options. See how this feels. See if that's too high already. Bring it down a little bit if you need to, or if you feel nothing at all, you can try the arm and the leg first and then elevate this more if you need to. So the arm, again, up and back, which isn't going to do anything for that psoas muscle, but that's okay. Reach it forward. That will help the psoas stretch. And then take the top leg straight and see how that feels. And then you can combine the arm reaching past the head. Again, if you are rolled forward or back on the hips, you're not going to feel it the same way. So situate yourself where you think you need to be. Do a teeny tiny tilt back, teeny tiny tilt forward. See where you feel the most stretch. Hold it there. And then again, if you want to add an arm, don't let your rib cage shift back. Just the arm stretches back, or stretch your arm forward. And again, we're going to be here a good while so you can feel that. If you don't, you want to elevate that. Go ahead and use your hands, press yourself up, elevate yourself out of there. And so again, you're probably going to tell which side is tighter. So we're on the top side of the spine. So your spine, of course, is behind you. I'll show you the front side. So you're on this side of the spine, and it's going to come down into that pelvic bowl, into the front side of the pelvis. And that's where it's tilting. It's pulling it back if it's, it's pulling it forward if it's not stretched enough. So we're trying to attempt to balance the body. We think about strength in balance of the body. We don't think too much about stretch and balance in the respect of how it affects our hips. So you might notice some people have one hip higher than the other. They might have one leg that's longer than the other, which that could be a genetic thing. It could be an actual physical thing. Sometimes it's caused by the shape of the hip based on the tightness of the muscles. So it might be something that could actually be fixed, or at least corrected more than what it is when you start out. So balancing the hips so that the tilting of the hip front to back is balanced, so you're not tilted too far forward or too far back, and that the left hip, right hip are balanced as well. So there's a lot that goes into the body, just into that hip area, and we're doing our best here to help everything kind of get stretched out. Not a whole lot you can do with the foam roller for this, because that's a deep internal muscle there. What we did earlier to lay on the back and have the hip elevated, that helps somewhat with that as well. So that's why we're focused on these stretches tonight. Help those hip flexors loosen up a little bit more for you. And again, get the arm stretch if you need that, which we'll get more into that in just a moment. So let's take another couple breaths here. Nice deep breath in and out. Hopefully you're feeling your muscles relax a little bit the longer you're here. A very long time here, yes, because these are deep muscles that are very, very strong, because think about it, it's holding your hips in place while you walk, run, kick, all that kind of stuff, all that activity. They've got to be strong. Now we need to stretch them out. So when we come out of this, again, bring your arm back in place. Start bending your top leg. Start bringing your knees to a point where you kind of move those hips a little bit so you can check out and see how things are feeling in that side. Bring your hand to the floor. Roll yourself forward a little bit. Sometimes it helps to get you back up. Oh my goodness. Hopefully you're feeling all right after all that. Take a deep breath in and out. All right, we need to let those muscles rest for a moment. So let's get into a little bit of arm stretching. So grab your towel or your strap. All right, so we're going to start with both arms up. We're going to take this hand to the floor, place it down so it can help hold your body there. We're just going to take that top arm, reach it back. So a little bit of a rotation of your chest up to the sky. If you find you didn't quite get enough, okay, then just take up a little bit more slack on that. Keep your wrist bent, bring it up, and bring your, let me get that out of the way. Bring your bent wrist back and then straighten out your wrist, and it'll take your arm back a little further. So side view of this. My arm is back, my wrist is bent. Straighten it out, takes my arm further back. So that is the stretch you're looking to get on this. And then you can take your head down to one side, ear to shoulder, holding that arm up for the stretch. Bend your elbow if you need to. You can rotate your chin down towards your shoulder and your chest. Maybe that feels like a really good stretch there. See if you're still breathing deep. Take one more deep breath. Exhale, let go. Slowly bring the head up first. And release the tension in the top arm. Bend the elbow to bring it down. Press your hand into the floor to come upright. Always protect the back. Always press into the floor to come out of these postures, especially when you're sideways. Especially after the side stretching we just did. The muscle's going to be fatigued. So even though you stretched it, that's fatiguing the muscle. So be very careful with your side movements, your forward, your back. Make sure your core is engaged so you protect your back. All right, other arm up, the other hand is on the floor. Bend the wrist, bring the arm back, find that good stretch. And now if you want to stretch it more, you can straighten out that wrist, or you just keep the wrist bent and just notice how it feels, and maybe it feels good. And then after a while, it stretches enough that you can straighten out your wrist. But in the meantime, let's take our chin towards the shoulder, see how that feels. And you can always rotate it down a little bit more so you get the back side of the neck to stretch a little more. Always lengthening the back of the neck, the side of the neck. That's the best way to stretch. Sometimes turning the head upwards, a pretty good feeling of a stretch too, so you could try that as well. Check in with deepening the breath. And then you can slowly release the head. Soften the top arm elbow, bring it down, press through the hand on the floor to come back upright, and relax, shoulder rolls. All right, so arms out to the sides without the strap. Arms cross. Bring your elbows forward, chin to chest. We've done this quite a bit. It's a great way to open up that space between the shoulder blades. You can round forward a little bit if you think you need that little extra. And then slowly bring your spine up if it's curved forward. Slowly bring your head back up. Bring your elbows back in towards you. Squeeze the shoulder blades together behind you. And relax. Know which arm's on top. Open up. Stretch back. And then arms cross in front the other direction. Hands to the opposite shoulders. Bring those elbows forward. Chin towards your chest. And you can add that rounding forward a little bit if that feels good. The key is to separate shoulder blades. So that's why the elbows move forward. The chin to the chest just helps aid in the back of the neck to stretch. Take one more deep breath. Exhale. Bring your spine up if it was curved forward. Bring the head up. And we're going to take the elbows back in, squeeze those shoulder blades together, and then release. Arms out to the sides and relax down. Shoulder rolls up and back a couple times. Awesome. All right, so now let's see here. Let's go onto all fours. I'm going to stretch a little bit more to the upper back right. So we're going to take the right arm up high. Exhale, bring it underneath the left. Bring your left shoulder to the floor. Right shoulder, right ear to the floor. Keep the weight back into your legs and your hips. And you're trying to create space between the right ear and right shoulder. So you can take your left hand, keep it under the left shoulder, and just roll onto that right shoulder blade a little bit. So it's a little bit of a twist into the spine. If that feels good, stay there. Just make sure you have your weight back into your legs a little bit there. Then your left arm can reach forward if you like, or you can reach the arm up to the sky behind you again if that feels good. You can even wrap it around your back. Your goal is to feel more stretch into the neck, upper back. Take one more deep breath. Exhale, release the arm up to the sky, hand to the floor. Press into that space right below that left shoulder to bring yourself up. Bring your right arm back out to the side and up to the sky. Breathe in. Exhale, bring it down. All right, we're going to try the other side. So left arm reaching up, breathe in. Exhale, bring it down underneath the right arm. Left ear, left shoulder to the floor. Create some space there. Shift your weight back into the legs if you need to. And now your right arm can extend forward. You can keep the hand under the shoulder, roll onto that left shoulder blade a little bit. Right arm can reach up and back if that feels good. You can wrap it around your back. So go where it feels good. You get a good stretch through the left side of the neck. Nice stretch for the mid-back, upper back area. Take one more deep breath. Exhale. Let's bring that right hand underneath the right shoulder. Come off the left side. Press yourself up. The left arm reaches up to the sky. Breathe in. Exhale. Bring the hand back down. Child's pose. Take your knees wide. You can keep the toes tucked under or top the feet down. Set your hips back to your heels and stretch your arms forward. So once you get situated here, decide if you want to take your knees closer or further apart. If you go further apart, you might find that you get a pretty good, nice little stretch there, almost like a frog stretch. So if you're already saying, ooh, I want to go into frog stretch, you can do that. Just come up a little bit so you can get your legs out so that the knees are right out from the hip and 90-degree angle at the knee. Inside of the feet, let's scoot up a little bit here, are on the floor, and then you can just settle down into that. Otherwise, happy child's pose. Child's pose, people, keep your tailbone tucked under, reach your tailbone back, reach your fingers out and away. If you're in the frog, you can move a little bit forward, a little bit back, or just stay still. You're going to stay 3 more deep breaths. Whatever feels good for you, that's where you should be. When you're ready to come up, especially if you're in that frog, just move yourself forward or back to where you feel okay, where you come up out of that child's pose. Bring your hands underneath the shoulders and bring yourself back up. All right, so let's come onto a seat here. Take a moment. We're going to go into more of the hip stretches. So we're going to start first in hurdler stretch. If you're able to move into a different stretch from here, awesome. If not, stay here so you feel awesome. Keep the feet flexed. Reach over that front knee. This might be just the best stretch ever for you, so stay there if it is. Otherwise, I'm going to try and get you into a pigeon stretch because there's actually an additional stretch we can do in this, focusing on those hip flexors. So you're going to try and bring that leg back behind you that way. And if you can be here, stay here. It's pretty intense when you go to this next level. And that would be, and I'll show you an option. So don't do this. I don't want your hamstrings to fire up to get cramping if you bend your knee back like that. But you could do that and bring that ankle in towards you. But if that's not going to work for you, then I want you to come out of this posture. And I want you to bring, instead of being in the hurdler position this way, which you can stay here if this is feeling really good, bring this leg into a runner's lunge this way. And then you can bend that back knee. Again, that's going to fire up that hamstring, that if you're okay, you can reach back for it. You could use the strap back there. Get it underneath the ankle there. So when you get into this posture, you can use that strap to bring that knee into that bent position, heel towards your buttocks, and you can stay here. Probably not the most comfortable position to be in, but it is an option. You're going to go into this one as well. Lots of stretch going on into the hips. But again, wherever you need to be, that's perfect. So if this works, stay there. If this pigeon pose works better for you, maybe your hips are up high, that's okay. Maybe you take that blanket you had, put it underneath that front hip. Maybe that feels pretty good there. And then you can still bend that back knee if that works for you or not. Or you just bring yourself all the way down and forward. If you like that runner's lunge, go for it. You can stay three more breaths. Whatever feels good. All right, let's slowly come out of this. So if you're in pigeon pose with the leg on the floor, tuck under your toes to shift your hips forward. Unwind yourself. If you're in this runner's lunge, go ahead and stretch back. Let's all get into this runner's lunge. So let's take this foot to the floor. We're going to have more weight on the back leg. I want us to straighten out the front leg the best we can. So no weight is on that leg, no hands on that leg, they're on the floor. Or if you have got blanket or pillow, maybe that elevates you enough you can come up. Or if you have a chair on either side you can hold on to, straightening out that leg, pulling those toes back, coming forward as much as you can. That's going to be a good hamstring stretch, good calf stretch. Take another breath. Exhale it out. Now bend that knee, foot to the floor. We're going to bring hands to the inside of that foot. Heel toe walk that foot in a little bit and take your knee out to the side. So this is going to be a little bit of a hip stretch into this too. So if this is not working for you, come on down. Come back into either this hurdler stretch here or cross your legs now and reach forward. Remember which leg you have in front. Hopefully this is the one that you had out front when you're doing that runner's lunge. That way you'll remember which one was which and stretch it that way. But if you're in that runner's lunge, your foot is underneath your heart, knee is turned out, this foot is still flexed. So it looks like this from the front. There you go. Take 3 more breaths. You might be feeling a lot looser in that hip flexor in the back leg. It's a good thing. All right, let's slowly come out of this. Bring that knee up and work that foot back the best you can, coming out of that posture. All right, so we're going to switch to the other side. Take your time transitioning. If it feels like, oh, this is tight, and come out of it, rock those hips a little bit, do a different little stretch, and then come back into it. All right, so now we're going to come over that front knee, get that stretch going. If that feels good, stay there. If you can take that leg back a little bit or a lot, maybe if it's just, still kind of on the side of this hip and this knee's really bent and you come forward, maybe that feels okay. That will probably give you enough extra stretch. You're going to be able to move into the pigeon before you know it. So if you can go into pigeon, here we go. Keep the foot flexed. You're on the side of the leg. So we protect that front knee. And again, if you can't get your hips all the way down, you use that blanket under the front hip to elevate it up. That keeps those hips square. Keep that foot flexed, protect the knee. You can come down, you can stay up. And then you can always bend that back knee. Find the ankle, bring it in a little bit or a lot. Again, don't make your hamstrings cramp up on you just because you're reaching back for that leg. Don't want that to happen. Get that stretch. I'm trying to get you here because that adds a whole lot of stretch into that back leg hip flexor. So I need you working on this on your own. Do a little bit every day. Loosen up that hip flexor. Get you healthy in those hips. Make the workouts easier. Let's take another deep breath. Stay here as you exhale. I'm going to give you that other option. If you were here, if you want to run to that runner's lunge, or if you were in this position, hurdler's stretch, I want you to go now into runner's lunge. Just straight down with the hips. Knee is still up. We're not taking the knee out yet. And again, if you want to bend that back knee, reach back and find that ankle. You can do that here too. Remember, use your strap if that works for you. Kind of help extend that reach behind you. Find it, pull it in. Notice how this hip flexor is feeling. Is it happy? Or is it tight? Wherever you are, 2 more deep breaths. All right, so if that back knee's bent, straighten it out. I think I have you all in this runner's lunge. If not, go ahead and get into it. We're going to heel toe walk that foot across, take the knee out to the side. See how you feel in this one. So it's a little bit new for some of you probably. If this absolutely doesn't work, then this is where you go into that cross-legged, this leg's in front, cross-legged, lean forward if you need to, or just stay here if that's enough stretch. Take 3 more breaths. Again, trying to feel that. You can see my hip flexor back there stretching, getting the hips low to the floor. All right, on that next exhale, we're going to stretch back. So let's bring that knee up. We're going to heel toe walk out that foot. So if you're in seated cross-legged position, can you get back into runner's lunge to do this? I hope you can. Stretch back. That weight's on that back leg. Flex your foot, hands on either side of that leg, or you're holding on to whatever it is that helps you stay steady. Or maybe you have your hands on your hips. Maybe you're good with this. Keep flexing the foot back, stretch through the calf, the hamstring. Keep pulling this hip back. That's going to be the best thing. And it's tough, I know, but that's why I'm having you do it, because I need you to get that stretched. Let's take 2 more deep breaths. Exhale, let go, and soften that knee. Have a seat, however you wish to be. Oh, let's go ahead and lay on the back. We're getting close to finishing this stretch out. So on the back, hug in those knees, little rock side to side. Let's take the feet to the floor, knees out to the side, a little bit of a reclined butterfly stretch. Maybe press the legs away a little bit, or maybe down, or maybe kind of both. Just see how it feels in there. Take another deep breath. Exhale, let it go. Now you can stay here if you wish. If you're feeling some pressure in that low back, bring your knees together. Use your hands, knees together, feet out wide. This usually feels pretty good for a relief of low back issues. You can also take your legs straight. We're going into our resting pose, Shavasana. Arms can be at the sides. Hands can be on the belly if you prefer. Tuck under your shoulder blades so you can feel your heart open. Lengthen the back of the neck. We'll just take a few moments here if you have that ball close by, I haven't done this for a while. Oh gosh, I should have had you getting that ball before we got all comfortable, right? You can put that ball in that occipital ridge area, that little place where the back of the skull jets out, and you can just rest your head there, or you can turn your head a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right. Just don't travel over the vertebrae itself, because you have vertebrae that go right up into the skull area there. So just wherever it feels good. Again, tuck under the shoulder blades, open the heart. Let your whole body get heavy with the next exhale. As you inhale, feel the body get light. As you exhale, release out all the tension out through the legs, out through the feet, leaving the body a little bit more light, a little bit more relaxed. Take a slow breath in through your nose. Slow exhale through your nose. Deep inhale, softening your face. Exhale, let go. Take a deep breath in. Pause at the top of the inhale. Exhale, let it go. Now begin to move fingers and toes, moving arms and legs, maybe rocking your hips, moving shoulders. Removing the ball out from behind the head if it's there. Bend one knee at a time into the chest, hug it in, little rock side to side. Take your knees in a circle one way, breathe in. Circle knees the other way, breathe out. Feet to the floor, knees to one side, arms reach the opposite way, little cat stretch, breathe in. Exhale, release everything back to center, knees go the other way, the arms go the opposite direction. Nice deep breath in and out. Knees back to center. Bring one knee at a time to the chest. Lift your head, little rock forward and back between the tailbone and the shoulder blades. And then a little rock side to side. Come back to rocking forward and back. And either rock all the way up or roll to your side and sit up. Sit nice and tall. Relax your shoulders down. Take an inhale through your nose. Exhale through open mouth like a sigh. Let it go. And let's take our hands to the sides. Inhale, open the eyes, palms together to the heart as we breathe out. And again, hands to the sides, lifting, gathering energy, vitality, and joy, and bringing all these good things to our hearts. And that's our class. Namaste. Thanks for joining me. I hope you feel a lot better. I will see you next time. Bye.